Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Networking Thursday. It's January 11th, 2024. Very glad you're with us this afternoon. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. For those on Zoom, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just enter them into the chat window. For those watching on Facebook, thank you for joining us. Please, any questions you've got, put those into the comment field. We're monitoring both feeds. We'll get those questions answered for you. Also, this is all about networking. I would recommend for everybody out there, put in your name, position you're looking for, list a couple target companies, put in your LinkedIn profile, put in your email address, so connect with everybody else who's on this call today, expand your connections. This is all about networking. So I encourage everybody to do that. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morse. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. 2012, I launched careerusa.org to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search that you may not know. It is available on Amazon, or if you see me in person, I always have copies with me. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. That group meets on Friday mornings, tomorrow morning, and we've got a really interesting program coming up tomorrow morning. I'll tell you about that at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the Practice Interview Team, also known as the PIT Crew. Remember, your resume, your LinkedIn profile, they're not going to get you a job. What they do get you is a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills, that's what's going to get you your next job. So for more information, just go to dallaspitcrew.com. All right, well, for every session, we've got a different speaker talking about networking. Today, our speaker is Locke Alderson. He's going to talk about networking to network. Locke just recently had shoulder surgery, so he's not with us live. This is a presentation he gave us last year. So I'll play the presentation. If you have any questions, we'll get those answered for you at the end of this session.
Since that time, I've had about 19 years working as a career consultant with those in career transition. Most recently with Locke Alderson, I spent about 2 years with them. After they purchased Mullen International, I was unemployed with Mullen when they laid off all their Dallas consultants for about a month before Locke Alderson picked me up. And there's my industry experience there as well. If you're interested in today's presentation, even though Jeff is recording it, I'll be happy to send you the slide deck that goes along with that. You might ask the question, why networking? Okay, and what is networking to network? Well, basically networking is an exchange of information or services among people, individuals, or groups. Specifically, it's cultivation of productive relationships for employment or business. Let's see if I can take this off my screen. And do it that way, okay? But basically, it's building relationships with other people. And in other words, it's not about you. It's a two-way process of giving and receiving. Some people have said it's building relationships, something we have been doing all of our lives. It can be those kind of things which are good at networking. Well, not all of us are good at networking. But again, the scripture, and I go to Bible frequently when I was in job search mode. A verse from Ecclesiastes 4:12 says, a person standing alone can be attacked and defeated. And when we're job hunting, it's easy to get defeated and down and discouraged. But two can stand back to back and conquer. And three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. That's just something about networking. Again, it's something that people do. Some people, I know I worked with somebody at E-Systems for a number of years. When he was finally laid off, he had neglected in networking after 15 years. And so he didn't really have much of a network to start with. I maintained that as I went along because I think that's important. So networking and job search. It's the most effective way to land a position. One of the reasons that I say that is by my last 5 positions were all found through networking. Who did I know and who do they know? Introduced me to somebody else, and that that resulted in a job. I know when I moved from Mullen International, Lehigh Harrison, I was interviewed and had to submit a resume after I'd been interviewed and offered the job. So that's the power of networking that you have. It varies by the level of the position that you're working on. It can be as low as 35, 40%, it can be as high as 90% at the upper levels of the job market. Again, you can see some of the statistics there from ABC, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Harvard Business Review. Again, those are all slotted depending upon the population that they're working with. And why is networking so successful? Well, again, people like to do business, people that they know and like. Networking makes you a recommended member of a smaller applicant pool or labor pool. And often the hidden job market is the source of candidates is for networking. Again, those are the jobs that are not advertised or not posted anywhere. This is a slide I took from, excuse me, I shouldn't say took, I borrowed from Lehigh Harrison. They indicate that about 57% of the candidates that they work with result with networking. They emphasize networking heavily. And the internet job posting is another way that people go through that. Again, you can see that those statistics have changed. When I started in the recruiting business in HR, the newspaper was probably the #1 source. Anywhere from 45 to 50% of candidates came through newspaper ads. When do you start networking? Well, if you haven't started, the time to start is now. You should always be networking, whether that's with the person next to you at the dry cleaners or at the grocery store or at a soccer game, a baseball game. Get to know the people around you. Introduce yourself. Take a minute to find out who they are. You should be attending unemployed groups that are available. 2 to 3 groups a week. The best source of finding some of those is on careerdfw.org. There's a whole source of those. Their calendar lists a number of them. 2 of the more popular groups here in the Dallas area are the Frisco Connect and for South Lake Focus Group. And they're groups where you can meet unemployed people. But don't limit your networking to unemployed. You want to meet with some of the employed people through professional groups like the Dallas chapter of the CPAs, American Training and Development Group, Financial Executive Networking Group, Marketing Group, Networking Group, North Texas Association of Mortgage Professionals was a group that when I was doing work with Mullen International, working with a lot of mortgage candidates, mortgage brokers, a lot of work, and that was a group that met regularly at the Prestonwood Country Club in North Dallas once a month. Another group, you can go to service groups or business groups like Chamber of Commerce, Knights of Columbus, Rotary, are all groups that have regular meetings, and they'll take, even though now, I shouldn't say even though now that they're back in meeting face to face, it's easier to attend some of those, and some people will sponsor to go to meetings like that. Alumni groups. I happen to have attended Texas A&M for my undergraduate degree, and that's a group that has a couple of former students associated. They don't call them alumni at A&M. And meetups. You can Google meetups. On any profession here in the Dallas area, there's at least 50 different meetups that are available to you. And accountability groups. They're important because an accountability group, if you have that partner, that second or third person, they can help you when you get down and discouraged, and you can offer them encouragement as well. People have similar needs that they may be willing to share. If I can't get the job and you have a background like mine, I want to encourage people to consider you. So that's another way to do that. So how do you start networking? Well, first you need to start with a networking plan. It doesn't have to be something very formal and structured. It could be something fairly basic, just a name to the companies, making a list of the target companies that you're interested in. Data Axle, which is now known as Data Reference Solutions, used to be Reference USA, is another source of information about companies. The databases of Dallas-Fort Worth companies and NAIC codes, which is something that the government produces. You can research target companies and industries. You can use LinkedIn's company section and look up companies and find out information about them. And you might also ask, well, how do I find companies? Well, do a people search for yourself on LinkedIn. Look up your profession, whether that's an accountant or a sales rep, limit it to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and look at some of the people that show up on that. Hopefully you're going to show up in the first 10 screens. That's That's about 100 thumbnail sketches of people. But if you don't, take a look at some of the profiles of the people that are there. Take a look at the verbiage that's there. That's some verbiage that you can include in your profile, but it's also a list of companies that have work like the work that you perform. They may not have current openings, but those are companies that you may be wanting to start networking with. You can take information from Glassdoor about companies in terms of the reviews and the ratings of the companies, and you can reach out to contacts on LinkedIn. You want to determine who your companies are, your LinkedIn companies. Kip Lipson and Mike Ray used to teach a class on Reference USA, which is now, I want to say that that's the company that it is, Data Solutions. If they're doing that, it's certainly a worthwhile attendance to their presentation on that. Information about certain companies' industries, the names of contacts. Some of those companies have the names of the executives on that, and advice on your campaigns. The data reference solutions is available at your public library, and a reference librarian can show you how to use it. In some cases, if you have a library card, you may be able to access it from home and make a list of the companies that you're interested in here, say in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, or if you're looking in other areas like Atlanta or New York. I know when I was with Mullen International, I had a candidate from the bank here in Dallas. He was looking to go to work in New York City. We helped him find some things in New York City using resources online. Well, developing your network, you want to start with your primary contacts. Who do you know? Your family, your friends, your professional associates. Making a list of those and getting in touch with them. It doesn't have to be anything simple, but you want to reach out to them generally by telephone. Why by telephone? It's the method we use for contacting people. If you have some phone phobia, you might want to write down or script out what you want to say. Basically, it doesn't have to be anything lengthy or formal, but you can list out what you're interested in, your name, a little bit about your background if they don't know you, and talk information you're trying to develop a relationship with them. Start with a low-hanging fruit, the people that you know, and as you get more comfortable making those calls, making those contacts, you can reach out to others. So that primary contact can be your neighbors, social acquaintances that you have, that you've met socially, classmates and alumni, if you've kept in touch with some of the people from your school, teachers and professors, former co-workers, clients and vendors, anyone that you've written a check to in the last year. Maybe you're your hairstylist, as I said, or your cleaners, if you've developed any kind of relationship with people there. Those are some people that you can keep in touch with. Your Christmas card list is another one I have. When I was out of work from Siebel, I was laid off in 2002. And in 2003, November 2003, we sent out our Christmas card list, which we do every year. I sent one to my former boss. January the 2nd, he calls me up and said, would you have any interest in coming back to work on contract? And I said, of course. And of course, the next day he calls me with some bad news. He says, I've talked to the CFO and he says, no more contract employees, but would you be interested in coming back full-time? And I went back to work full-time. So do keep in touch with those people that are on your network. You never know how that's going to result in a contact that leads to a job or a job interview. I know we had another candidate that I worked with from MEG, a group that I'm in on Thursday mornings. He'd been out of work for about a year. He was out in the alley doing something with the lawn clippings or something like that. He encountered a neighbor across the alley from him. The guy said, are you still out of work and still looking? And the guy says, yes. He said, well, I've got an opening I think you'd be perfect for. Interviewed the guy and he got a job. Here's somebody that he's known for a long time, and yet it took a year to get in touch with him and land a job situation. Start with a goal of 1 or 2 informational interviews or calls a day. Plan out your calls and script them out. Doesn't have to be verbatim what you're going to say, but have a good idea of what you want to say. Have it down. You may want to type it out, double space it, so it's easy to glance at when you're on the phone. Your message needs to be clear and concise and focused. It basically is your 30-second commercial, perhaps a minute resume. They're very similar, just a little bit more details on those. And role play with a friend to help you get started in situations like that. Makes it easy, gives you confidence. Your secondary contacts that you want to get in touch with are people at your target companies that you may know. Be respectful of those people's time, because Their full-time job is not to talk to you on the telephone. They may have a job that they're getting paid for, or else they'll be joining you in the networking circles. Be organized and be prepared. And don't have a long-winded sales presentation. And be sure and take a breath when you're doing that. I know when the telemarketers call, sometimes they never take a breath before they're done with 2 minutes worth of talking. And again, can't get a word in edgewise on those. You need to develop some kind of tracking system. And by that, I mean it can be something very simple and something in Outlook or Excel where you're keeping that available. And there are some templates in Excel that you can use, or on the internet for keeping track of people. It should contain the basic information about the contact that you've made, the date, the information, columns of information about what you talked about, and secondary contacts you need to have also to list how they were referred to you. And if you had a contact for the last conversation, what was the topic, and any follow-up that you need to do on that. And remember, looking for a job is a full-time job, but it shouldn't be a job that keeps you 80 hours a week. Make a balance, make a calendar that you keep to it. Do it a week or two in advance. I know when I left a company, you generally turn in your laptop computer, and of course your contacts are in there, and maybe your calendar's in it. But keep a calendar. I know I still keep a calendar even though I'm retired, and keep it. My wife and I sat down yesterday to balance our calendars so we aren't conflicting with different things that we're working on. And try and maintain a positive attitude. As I mentioned, it's a time that you could be discouraged pretty easily when you get those no's on the telephone call that nobody's interested in you. You get those reject letters that they've gone ahead with another candidate. You need to have business cards, even though we haven't been meeting face-to-face. Face-to-face meetings are coming back now, and you need to have that be part of your image. It gives a sense of who you are and the talents that you possess on your business card. If you don't have one, you need to make one. Okay, it's a one that you want to get and ask for others for. So what do you need to put on a business card? Well, there's some things that you need to have on it: your name and telephone number and your email address. I'd also put your LinkedIn URL. There's mine, and it's how that it can be addressed, so somebody can easily type that in and go to your LinkedIn profile. If you have that on your resume, that's also how you need to list it on your resume, so if they click on that, will automatically take them to your LinkedIn profile. You need to have the job target or the position that you've occupied, what you're looking for, what's the position that you're interested in. Some additional things that you can have. You can get them at a business supply store like Office Depot. You can go to Vistaprint.com. They used to be the cheapest, but that's no longer true. I checked with them today, and I think they have 100 for $15. I also saw other one on Google when I did that for 500 business cards for $8.50. Generally, a good idea to have black on white cards, black text on white cardstock is the standard. Make sure that it's legible, not too small a type font. You can be creative a little bit if you want. If you're in real estate, you may want to put a picture because it's often used as an identifier with people. But generally, pictures on resumes and business cards is not something we do. You want to be sure that it adds value to that. And because people write on business cards, frequently I know I keep a pocket full of them when I go out to make notes on things. Don't coat your business card with a plastic coating. I know I've seen a number of those that are coated on both sides, which makes it difficult to write on them. You want to keep a supply with you and keep a case. I know Jeff used to hand those out at when he was having the North Dallas focus group available to you. If possible, hand the person the card directly. I know the Japanese have a very ceremony where it's two-handed. Hand it to you with the business card is in both hands and hand it to you, and there's almost a ceremony that accompanies that. Networking groups. Find groups that work for you. Career DFW is the best source that I know of to find groups. The Career Search Network is another one. Google, as I mentioned, you can do meetups to find groups, and they're often affinity type groups. Meetup.com in Dallas reveals about 50 different groups. There are also professional associations that meet regularly. And a lot of the professional associations now are meeting online, and they don't charge for meeting, whereas sometimes when they were face-to-face, there's a charge for the lunch or the dinner or the drink that goes with that. Try to narrow down your groups to 3 or 4 different groups that give you the most value. You may want to volunteer to be active in those groups, and that provides leads to other things. I know that's how I ended up getting the job with Ball International. I've been a volunteer doing things like this. It's speaking in groups, like the Frisco Career Transition Workshop, and that led to a 90-day contract, which led to 4 years and 90 days before that contract came to an end when Mullen sold out. Some of the volunteer activities that you can do, and they can lead to a job. It's the answer to what you've been doing lately, and it's good for your morale to make a contribution. I ran into somebody who was networking, was out looking. He was at the animal shelter here in Plano. Another gentleman from one of the networking group got a part-time, full-time job at the hospital because he volunteered in the emergency room there as an EMT. There are things like the Plano Balloon Festival. I noticed that the golf tournament coming out that's here in the local area was looking for 50 volunteers for that. It's a way to meet people. Go through just some of those that are available. Habitat for Humanity, the food banks, being a membership committee or reception desk person that's there. When you're doing attending network meetings, you need to know what you're going for. Be prepared. Have an objective when you go to meetings to meet people, to make at least 4 or 5, say, new contacts that you don't know, and let people know. It's not a time where you want to approach people and say, I'm John Jones. I understand you're with ABC Company. Do you have any jobs for me? People don't like to have the bite put on them for a job. So you typically want to develop a relationship so that people can get to know you and what your skills are, what your experience is, before you want to even talk about a job at their company. And they will approach you if they have something. You want to arrive early and be confident about who you are. It's good also to have perhaps somebody, a wingman, to go with you, or a wing person, to be politically correct, that can introduce you to some people. And go, if it's a face-to-face meeting, certainly dress professionally like that. Even on some of the Zoom meetings right now, you want to at least have your shirt and tie, or casual shirt rather than just a t-shirt when you're on a Zoom meeting. And reach out to people and listen to what they're having to say. And mingle with a group. And if you are face-to-face, you do want to exchange business cards. And don't expect either any kind of networking events to have an instant success. Those are the exception rather than the rule. Another type of information which you're talking about is informational interviews. It's frequently covered on the interviewing sessions. I know that's covered on Wednesday afternoons on at least one of the sessions that they do there. But informational interviews are just that. You're asking for 15 or 20 minutes to find out about a company or to share some information. Again, if you ask for 15 minutes, stick to that agenda, because people's job is not to network or interview with you. The questions that you have are about the person, the content, company, the industry, and ask for their input. Ask about their experience, and ask who do they know that you should be in touch with after they've gotten to know you. That should be your goal, is to have at least a couple of contacts after the informational interview. And you never know when an informational interview can result in a full-time interview. Having had the situation, well, we're looking for somebody like you. Would you have any interest in interviewing for the job? That's something that you can do. Or conversely, if you have an interview and it isn't going well, you might ask the question, it doesn't seem like we've got a fit here. I know you've interviewed some people with my kind of background. Who are some of the companies that I should be talking to who might have an interest in me? And you want to send thank you notes to the people that are involved. And it's a good idea when you're networking to be back in touch with your network at least every 4 to 6 weeks. It can be something as simple as a phone call, just one to give you an update, or an email, an update on how I'm doing. I've had some successes, haven't found the right opportunity yet. Should you find the right should you hear of an opportunity that matches my background, I'd welcome the chance to follow up on it. Something as simple as that. You'd be amazed at the results that can provide. And thank you notes. This is just a sample thank you note. You want to include some things in the thank you note. Thanks for the time that you're able to spend with me, the opportunity we discussed. In this case, there's mortgage underwriting. What was one thing that you talked about during the course of the interview? I indicate that you're still interested, that you can make a contribution to the company, and you're looking forward to the next steps, whether that be a face-to-face interview or meeting again with the boss, the hiring manager, whatever it is. that you want to send, and send it to the persons that you've interviewed with. Don't just send it to the one recruiter or hiring manager and say, would you distribute this to the rest of the team? Because in many cases, they won't. Jeff, I think I'm about done. I've kind of run through that in a hurry.
Voice, there we go. All right, well, that's Locke's presentation. I appreciate everybody being with us today. Anybody have any questions? If you have any questions about networking, you're welcome to unmute your mic and ask away. Any questions?
Hey, I have a question, please.
Yes,
Thank you. Hey, so when you see someone who works for a company that you are about to apply for because you see a position on LinkedIn, and they look like they're probably in the area that you would be applying for. So the approach to just reach on out and, hi, my name is Susan. I've just applied for a position and I just wanted to introduce myself. And I mean, is that cool? I mean, I've done it. Don't hear back. Sometimes I have. Any tips on that?
Well, I think a lot of it depends on if the person you're reaching out to has been unemployed in the past. If they've gone through what we're going through right now,
Right.
they'll get it. They're going to give you some time. If they've never
Mhm.
been unemployed, they don't get it. One day they will be unemployed and they will get it, but it will, they haven't, it hadn't happened to them yet. I tend to not want to say, hey, I just applied for a job. I'd like to talk to you, whatever. I like to just say, I'm very interested in gathering some information about your company. Would you have a few minutes to talk? You have
Interesting.
that conversation, you do that informational interview with somebody, you find out. What usually happens is they'll go and say, so tell me a little bit about you. And you tell them about yourself. Well, I think we have an opening for that position. We have an opening for somebody like you in our company. Really? Do you know who that happens to be? Yeah, you've already applied, but don't tell them that. Make them think that, they're helping you. Do you, and you can ask them, who do you recommend I talk to about the position? Because I'd love to get more information. So I think sometimes by playing dumb, even though you know about the position, there is a position, you're just trying to get information and contacts. That, to me, that's the whole key when you reach out to somebody.
Now I lost my train of thought. But it's not uncool, if you will, to do that. Right? I mean,
No, I
looking
mean,
for a
no,
job.
I
Yeah.
reach out. Listen, all that can happen is they don't
Right.
respond or
Yeah.
they tell you no. I mean,
Right.
what I've always heard that no is the second best answer you can get.
Right.
The job is yours. No, you don't. No, you don't have it. So you can move on. And it's all those people who you just don't hear back from that are just sort of waving in the wind out there that you haven't heard back from. Those are the ones that, you tend to wallow over. So.
Right. And surely don't delay submitting your application before you find someone and reach out to them, right? They're completely separate activities.
I guess here's what I would say is if you see a position in a company you're interested in, quickly go to LinkedIn. Do I have any first degree connections at that company? If you happen to have a first degree connection at that company, reach out to that person going, I see there's a position available here. Can I use your name if they ask for a referral? Because there's a good chance a lot of companies are offering referral bonuses and stuff. So,
Right.
if you know them really well, but I mean, that would, within 15, 20 minutes, hopefully you'd be able to do it. If it's a first degree connection, hopefully
Sure.
you'd be able to reach out pretty quickly. But no, I mean, if you see a position, I would apply pretty quickly just with that one caveat.
Yeah. The nature of the jobs I'm looking for, I'm one of 300-400 people that are applying. So yeah, timing, I get one. Yeah. So
Well,
anyway.
the only way you're going to get a phone call back is if you can network your way in and you somebody gets your resume to the hiring manager or get your name to the somebody in HR who's looking for that job. Because when you can do that, when you just apply online, you've got a 1 to 2% chance of getting a phone call.
Yep.
If you can network your way in somehow, it
Right,
goes up to 40 to 50%, at least getting a phone call.
right. Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, Jeff.
And the other suggestion too is, if you don't know who you're really applying to, look for these, the director of talent acquisition, look for the director of HR, look for, somebody higher up, or even higher up in the position you're looking for that looks like they could be a hiring manager. Because if you reach out to them, what will tend to happen is they'll push it down to the correct person. So even if you don't know, they'll push it down, and usually that will also generate a phone call.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
One of the things, all great stuff, Jeff, and I have to admit that I haven't done that very well this time. Last time I went through this type of activity, close to 14 years ago now, if I got a reference, I found that I was really just I was hesitant to call them. All right. It's tough sometimes to make that phone call, even if you got somebody that said, hey, you can call this person. What I did to make it so I had to is a lot of times I would send that person an email first and say, I'm going to call you tomorrow or the day after, give a particular day and a time. So that I pretty much promised myself that I'm going to call them. If I don't, I may as well forget it. Okay. Sometimes they would respond with, no, that day and time won't work for me. Let's do this day and time. Sometimes they would respond, yep, that's fine. Sometimes they wouldn't respond at all.
Right.
But either way, it got them to I gave him a heads up I was going to call him. It wasn't necessarily a cold call, and that was helpful.
Right. And I assume that also in your email you would put down that, well, so and so suggested that I call you, because that makes it a little bit more of a warmer introduction.
Yes. Yep. There's and I kind of chuckled when you were talking, because there was a position I applied for, and it just so happens the CEO is in my town. Position's remote. I don't know. It's wherever in the country, but the CEO is in my town, and I just use LinkedIn to try to connect with them, because we have a couple common connections, but my common connection for me is not very strong. I haven't gotten a response back. Not a surprise with the way I went about it. I learned. Next time I'll do better.
I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do this. It's just, I've got 21, 22 different speakers who talk about networking. Primarily, it's the same thing. It's reaching out to somebody else, but it's, how do you do it? What's the best way? What's their recommendation? So, you just sort of try something. If it works, great. You do it again. If it doesn't work, try something different. There's no right or wrong answers. In the job search, there's no right or wrong way to find a job. Okay. It could happen there's 100 different ways that you could land your next opportunity.
Yep.
Anybody else we can answer a question for about networking?
I do have a question / comment.
Okay, Kim.
About a recent experience, which I think is speaks to the power of networking, or the strength of networking. So, and this has happened a couple of times now. The second time was earlier this week, and I got really frustrated. I saw a job that was posted on LinkedIn on the 4th of January. And I thought, oh, wow, this is great. Only freshly posted. Applied, reached out to a recruiter I knew at that same company, and just that I hadn't spoken to contacted for about 6 or 8 months. And fortunately, she replied. She passed me on to the correct recruiter. And then that recruiter came back and said, oh, thank you for reaching out, but we've already filled that role. I mean, 5 days, and so that's a whole other question that we could discuss at length. What on earth is happening there, that a job that's posted 5 days ago is already filled? But the point here is, I was able to use a networking connection to actually find out what was happening with that job. You know, I mean, who knows why it was only 5 days old and they'd already filled it, you know, but
There's a good opportunity, a good chance that that position was filled internally and they just had to post it outside, just to post it outside. They already had picked who they wanted, but they just had to put something else out there. So
yeah, I get that, and then also probably overworked HR teams that you know, don't circle back around and cancel postings, and don't really mind when job seekers spend a day or more customizing and researching the company, submitting an application, and get really irate and frustrated.
right. It's hard. It's not an easy thing. Anybody else? Any questions or comments from anybody else? All right, well, let me just share a few more slides. We'll get out of here. Let's see here. If you'd like to contact Locke, you're welcome to do so. LockeAlderson@gmail.com. Here's his LinkedIn profile. Tell him you saw him here today. If you do reach out to him, tell him I hope his shoulder's feeling better. I think he's going to the doctor tomorrow to finally get whatever stitches out or whatever the next round is. I think his doctor's appointment's tomorrow. So, you know, you're welcome to reach out to Locke. He also will send you that slide deck if you want it. Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. As I mentioned, tomorrow we've got a really interesting program at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. Our original speaker is sick, so last minute fill-in here, Patricia Bocci is going to talk about crystal nose. This is a fascinating program that it's really a little bit like AI, I guess. And I mean, you'll get more details tomorrow, but if you can put in somebody's name, it will look at their LinkedIn profile and it will tell you what kind of person they are and how you should deal with them and how you should interact with them. This is great for salespeople. This is great for, I mean, there's all sorts of things. In this case, Patricia is going to show us how to use it as a job seeker. But it's really a fascinating program. She'll punch some of your names in if you join us. You want to have your name pop in there. She'll read you what your profile is, and you'll go, yeah, that's about 80% complete. And when she did me, I mean, it was like 80, 90% accurate. So fascinating program. Come join us tomorrow morning, 9:30 Central Time. Next Tuesday, our LinkedIn presentation will be with Terry Sullivan. We'll talk about how to create a LinkedIn brand that tells your key contacts who you are, what you do, and how you can help. Please note the event will not be recorded. So if you want to watch the presentation next Tuesday, you will need to watch it live. Next Wednesday, the practice interview team will be meeting in person. They are now meeting in person on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Wednesdays of the month. The 4th and 5th Wednesdays will be online. So we will be back online January, for the 4th and 5th, 24th and the 31st. We'll be doing online presentations that day. So if you'd like to come join us for an interview, if you'd like to schedule your own practice interview, just reach out to dallaspitcrew@gmail.com. Next Thursday, we'll talk all about resumes, being the 3rd Thursday of the month. We'll talk about effective resumes, what your resume should look like. Basically, yesterday I happened to interview a candidate and they had their margins were about 1/8 of an inch on both sides of the paper. There was no place to write any notes. White space is good, but we'll talk about that and other things that you really need to do about your resume next Wednesday, 1 o'clock Central Time. If you'd like to join the Career DFW or Career USA LinkedIn groups, you're welcome to join one or both. You do not need to live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to join the Career DFW group. We've got over 15,000 members. We're about to hit 15,100. So come join. You're welcome to do so. I will look at your profile. If your profile is not mostly complete, I probably will not let you in the group, because why are you on LinkedIn if your profile is not mostly complete? Excuse me. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, number one, subscribe to our channel. We'd really appreciate it. We'd love to get over 1,000 subscribers. But click on playlist. Every video that I upload goes into a different playlist. In this case, if you want to click on networking, click on that round where it says view full playlist. Up will come a list of all the different dates and topics and titles. and you can go back and watch any of these networking videos or any of the videos we've got online at your convenience. Currently, there's about 585 videos, I think, as of yesterday. This video will be up. It'll take a couple hours to get this one posted, but it'll be up by 5, 6 o'clock tonight. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops and you'd like to join any of our sessions, you're welcome to send an email to the Career USA, the + subscribe at groups.io, or you can scan this QR code and it will start an email. Just hit send. You don't have to put anything in the email. You'll never be spammed, but what you will get is the title of the day, the topic of the day, and most importantly, the Zoom link of the day. Please remember, Career FW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. All of our speakers are volunteers. I'm a volunteer. Everything I've done over the last 15 years has just been to help you land your next great opportunity. So thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. Have a great Thursday, and we hope to see you tomorrow morning. If not, one day next week.
Thanks, Jeff.